I was still in bed asleep. I was awakened by the noise and my bed rocking back and forth, and my ceramic animals falling off the shelf above me. That was woke me up, and it was still dark, as I remember. And I was just trying to get out of my room to get to my mother and my two sisters. My parents were separated at the time. And I got out of my room into the hallway where my mother and sisters were. And very scared. My sisters were crying, my mother was crying, and we heard our neighbors yelling for us to come out of the house. In the hallway, our heater was there and had been knocked off, and gas was escaping. And we did leave the house and ran out in our nightgowns onto the front lawn. But we were all very scared. My mother just kept repeating, "I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." And my little sister, who was approximately 7, I believe, at the time just kept saying, "Are we going to die? Are we going to die?" Very emotional, very scary time. And we just sat outside on the lawn waiting for the aftershocks to stop. Anytime they did, my mother would attempt to go into the house to get us robes, and an aftershock would hit and she'd just run back out. So we stayed there. I don't know how long. It seemed like forever.
I guess modesty goes out the window at that point.
Yeah, I had curlers in my hair and everything. But I found out we were sitting there. I don't know how I got out of my room because my bookcase had fallen in front of my door, and the door only opened this much. But I got out of there, and the same thing with my little sisters. A dresser had fallen in front of the door, and my mother had struggled to get them out. So that was all discovered and discussed afterwards, after we were out of the house. And eventually we got to go back in, and it was, our piano was on its back. Fish tank had fallen over and crashed. Dishes, every dish was out of the cupboard, broken. Refrigerator had fallen and opened, and all of the contents broke and shattered on the floor. And I remember a bottle of ketchup had broken, and that smell of ketchup was just, it became repulsive to me after a while. And for a long time, I couldn't stand the smell of ketchup. But, my dad showed up, and we were so relieved to see him, and he was mortified when he saw the damage. He was living in Van Nuys, and he didn't feel it as severely as we had. And our neighbors, I remember seeing our neighbors across the street. They both had chimneys, brick chimneys, and the chimneys had crisscrossed and fallen into the bedrooms opposite the houses. And any brick walls and everything were leveled, it seemed.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, exactly. And we had no power. There were explosions in the intersections way at the end of the streets from the gas mains.
You had an explosion?
No, not in our house. No, okay. Thankfully, our neighbor was able to shut off our gas for us. But my dad remembered seeing explosions. There had been fires and stuff in the intersections as he drove closer and closer to the home, and he was so scared what he was going to find.
Were there any fires in your neighborhood?
I don't recall any fires. I'd heard about the explosions. We lived down from the VA hospital, so if you were to go straight up Cobalt and over the freeway, the VA hospital was up there. And my mother was friends with Mrs. Mickelson, David Mickelson's mother, and of course I knew David, and my sister was friends with his sister Nancy, and Mrs. Mickelson lost her life in the VA.
David's come in at 4 o'clock. Yeah.
Which was very sad news to hear, of course. our house was damaged. The foundation was messed up pretty badly, and my dad, we were going to get it fixed, but my mother was too afraid to live in the house. She refused to live there, so we ended up thankfully finding a house near a cousin in Northridge that we were allowed to rent out, and we commuted from Northridge to finish out the school year, my sisters and I.
So you guys actually left the neighborhood
Oh yeah.
because of the quake.
We stayed around for a couple of weeks. I recall we lived in the house and we had buckets in the bathroom, couldn't shower, very, primitive living style. And I imagine there were aftershocks, but I don't recall exactly, but we did try to clean up. And then we ended up going with my grandmother in Inglewood because my mom and sisters, they were just too scared. I don't remember being scared at that point, just dealing with the inconveniences of not having water and such. And
Do you remember a police presence at all?
No. I remember Red Cross coming several days later with sandwiches. I remember going to 7-Eleven locally, and they had jacked up prices considerably, as I recall. And the other grocery stores that we used to go to were closed. Of course, high school was closed. I don't recall how long the high school was actually closed. I talked to my sisters to try to gather information about this because I really hadn't given it much thought. When you told me it was 50 years, I was like astonished, but of course it's been 50 years. But I said, do you consider this like life altering for us? And it wasn't that we were, we moved. We never went back. They sold the house and took a big loss on it because we hadn't lived there that long. But my family was, my parents were separated already, and then living in Northridge, it seems stable at least for that time. Finished school, and then, but my little sister lives out of state to this day. She tried living here afterwards, after she got out of the Air Force for a while, and she lives in Wyoming, and she said she'll never come back. She's so fearful of earthquakes, but she deals with tornadoes and stuff. I don't think so. I was considering that because I experienced earthquakes in San Bernardino and in Hemet. We're on a fault, San Jacinto Fault, and I don't get as rattled as I thought I would have, but I don't think they have ever been as strong as that one either. I don't think I've been in one as strong as that one since then. But it causes you to pause and think a minute. Now, where am I going to go for this? But no, I don't feel that it's a reality, and I'm not fearful like I thought I would be. I can't say that it's a conscious thing that I do. Oh, I better not put that there in case there's an earthquake. No, I haven't. Mostly.
So when that ceramic item fell off the...
Well, I don't put things above my bed. So yes, I guess I do. No more ceramic figurines above my bed on shelves.
Did that fall on your head?
Yeah. They were small, but
okay.
I talked about seeing our piano, our upright piano laying on its back was significant for me. And of course the dead fish and all the fish. But I think seeing those two chimneys crisscrossed and falling into the bedrooms of our neighbors, that is something I won't forget either. But our neighbors had a pool, and they reported the water sloshing so much it came into the home. Our neighbors did come. We were all kind of gathered out in our front yard, and the neighbors across the street came, and so we were all congregated pretty much together, and they were very supportive afterwards. I remember a lot of communication with my parents. They didn't have kids my age, so I didn't know anyone my age locally there. Walter Martin, I was dating, he came and actually was the first person to help actually shovel things up and start cleaning. We were all just kind of walking around in a daze of what to do, but he didn't. His house wasn't damaged, just in Pacoima. He didn't get that much damage at all. I did look at pictures. I went back to, and I have related. I lived through the '71 earthquake to my coworkers. They're younger and really haven't experienced a big earthquake. And when I relate it to them, they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And at that time, I really, I'm like, "Yeah, I did live through that." But